Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbogo. And what can I say? Merry Christmas, dear Nigerians. It's one of our favorite time of the year. And I do hope you've spent your day enjoying and making merry with family while still staying true to the meaning of Christmas, which has to do with the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And of course, congratulations to all those who are celebrating. And let's not forget those who probably are not smiling while celebrating, looking at some of the results of the stampedes. Talk about those who lost their lives as they struggle to be able to get something to eat. Well, we'll say our sincere, heartfelt condolences to all those with families from all your states, Anambra, and of course, even right here in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Well, let's begin the show with Christmas greetings from President Bola Tinubu felicitating Nigerians on the Christmas celebration. The president, in a personally signed message, says the country is on the path to restoration and progress. He says Nigeria is on a promising path of restoration and progress, with every indication pointing towards a bright future. In the spirit of the season, he says, let us renew our hope and belief in a prosperous Nigeria. Let us extend our similar support and prayers to our nation's leaders. With your backing, he says, we can serve our country diligently and strive for prosperity. The president also sympathized with the families of victims who died in the recent stampedes in Abuja, Ibadan, and Anambra State. Describing the incident as tragic, Tinubu prayed that such events do not happen in the nation again. Quite a lot to unpack, given the fact that this statement came on Tuesday, just quite early for the Christmas season. Talking about the president, he seems to be in the spirit of Christmas, having, to leave the Federal Capital Territory here to go to Lagos for the Christmas break and holiday. And he had planned up a whole line of activities, but as a result of the sad news starting from Oyo State and then Anambra and Abuja, the president cancelled a lot of his activities. And in the process, of trying to make sense of all that happened, the president was quite generous enough to have his first media chat. That is pretty surprising for some of us who are in this business. You would expect that the president would have addressed the media, not just through his spokespersons like the likes of Bayo Onanuga and probably Bwala, who he recently appointed, and of course Sunday Dare. These are some of the key spokespersons for the president. But to hear from the president, this is something that as Nigerians we've been yearning for, we've been longing for. Do you recall the time of the End Bad Governance protest, where the youths were out there crying and say the president should address us? And that very Sunday morning, if you can recall, the president addressed the nation. But the impact of all of that, is still left to be seen, because it's just quite a lot. So today on the program, we'll be focusing on 2024 politics review. In the next coming few days, we'll try to, segmentize some of the key issues that happen in the world of politics and focus on them. But today, as a result of the multiple reactions that has trailed the president's media chat, we'll focus on the Tinubu administration. So that will be our focus today on the show. And we have a guest, a public affairs analyst, who will be helping us make sense of that. But of course, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and reactions to the president's media chat. So let's give you a rundown of our talking points. First, we'll look at the president's media chat, and then 19 months after, scorecard on governance. Our guest, Ekejuba Deberechi Kingsley, a public affairs analyst, who will be joining us. He is a pro-democrat, founder of the Progressive Abia Youth Spay. He is a fellow of the Young Innovation Leaders Fellowship and Innovation Fellowship for Aspiring Inventors and Researchers, IFA Israel. So let me take a quick breather. I'll be right back to break it all down for you. To stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues?
Order.
The tussle for power.
an extremely problematic area.
The tension, the instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, in 2024, Nigeria experienced a tumultuous year filled with significant political events that shaped the country's landscape. And as a nation, we faced considerable economic challenges with rising inflation, unemployment, and a struggling currency. The government tried their best implementing various reforms to stabilize the economy, but economic hardship persisted, with many scrambling for freebies and a sad situation in Oyo, Anambra and Abuja, where lots of people lost their lives. Now, security is another issue, and it remains a pressing issue in Nigeria, with ongoing conflicts in the northern region and increased incidents of banditry and kidnapping, which was so felt in Abuja. Now, on Monday, the president boasted of an effective security architecture. This same architecture has been criticized for its lack of political will to significantly curb insecurity. Now, we'll get to all of that. Politically, the year 2024 saw significant discussions also around constitutional reforms in Nigeria, with calls for amendments to address governance issues, decentralize power, and enhance accountability. Also, the Nigerian youth played a prominent role in shaping this political discourse, with increased activism, advocacy and participation in the End Bad Governance protests, which will not be the focus for today. Just to give you a preamble of all the major issues that we felt in the world of politics and governance. Now, these are just key areas that shaped what I would call the Tinubu administration in 2024. But before we get to our guest who will be helping us make sense of all that is going to be happening today, we've got a quick rundown of some of the big issues, that were pointed out during that media chat with the president, and there's been quite a lot of reactions to it. So let's have the rundown of some of the key points, and then we'll break it down and then get our guests to also weigh in on some of the key issues raised by the president. So first on the list, the president expressed condolences to the families affected by the recent stampede incident. The president defended his administration's decision to remove the fuel subsidy and also harmonize foreign exchange rates. The president insists reforms are necessary for growth. The president justified the need for more borrowings. Tinubu also expressed optimism in the current security architecture. The president reaffirmed his commitment to implementing tax reforms, and the president defended the size of and capability of his cabinet. So let's get back to the first key focus from the president, which was actually addressing the issue of the stampedes. And I mean, this particular media chat is a welcomed one, because, like I said at the beginning of the show, that Nigerians have been longing and waiting for the president to address core issues in the country. And that response has gotten quite the reaction, because the president, in his address with our colleagues, in the media, made mention of the fact that the organizers did a poor job in ensuring that the event was properly organized, with having the necessary security measures to ensure the people stay in line. So there was one blame on the part of the organizers, and also another blame on the people who came to get the food. But we would like to remind the president that we've seen cases whereby people hold programs. Let's say for a church program, you're holding a crusade, and you've got hundreds of thousands of people who attend those meetings, we know that sometimes, the number of people seems to overwhelm the capacity of security operatives. You talk about elections, even with the high number of security operatives, put out there to ensure that people are able to exercise their vote. In some cases, you would find that they are not able to hold the line because of the number of people. But I think the key question that must be looked at is, why did so many people come out en masse to get this particular freebie, whether it was rice distribution or whatever it is that some of these charitable organizers, brought to give to the people? Because that is very important. The singular reason is economic hardship. And the president in that speech, for some people, they felt as though he tried to remove the blame from his administration and solely blame it on the people who came to get those freebies and also the organizers. But the big question is, if people were able to afford the price of gas, the price of rice, which is over 100,000 right now in some cases, will they have thronged en masse to that particular place? Or even right here in the Abuja with the church that did that free giveaway, will they have gone there en masse to say they want to get something? And it's very funny that even in the course of this conversation, you would hear people say that, okay, how about some people who wanted to go there to go pick up stuff so that they can sell? I would like to disagree with that opinion, because that seemed not to be the case. Because a lot of people miss the fact that what they have, is it even enough for them? Not to even talk of wanting to go buy. So I think people miss the point by just saying, okay, that people want to go get the item so that they can sell it. It speaks light of the particular problem that is not being dealt with, which is the issue of economic hardship brought in by the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But of course, nobody is looking at that perspective. And I know some people would try to be balanced, but the key factor here is economic hardship. People can't afford to live well, even with the minimum wage that has been signed into law. And kudos to governors who are paying the minimum wage, but it is not enough. Nigerians are clearly hungry. And there is the issue of, politicizing the issue, which is one of the key things that political parties have started talking about, most especially the All Progressive Congress, who are in defense of the president's statement and his stance, blaming the organizers and, of course, the people who went there to get these freebies in the first place. But is this about politicization? What is there to gain? Do we have an election in the moment? So who stands to benefit? So it baffles my imagination when people make this as a case of politics. What's the benefit here? The 2027 elections is far away from here. So what does the PDP stand to benefit if it criticizes what happened? What does the Labour Party has to benefit if it criticizes, the singular fact that economic hardship has not gone anywhere despite the many efforts of the president? So let's take away time from that particular point and move on to the second point on that particular graphic, just to break down some of the key thoughts shared by the president. Secondly, the president defended his administration's decision to remove the fuel subsidy and harmonize foreign exchange. And I was very, very delighted about some of our colleagues in the media, who put out that question after asking the president about what he thought about the stampedes in the country, because it was just a perfect follow-up question to make sense of the reality that we are living in as a nation. Even when the lady from Channels TV had to ask the president, didn't you think this would have been better if it was done in faces? And the president insisted, how was it going to be possible? But that clearly, simply means that the president did not think through some of what he should have done in terms of the early preparedness to be able to put forward some of his policies. All the president cares about is the future generations. That has been his talking point. And this is not the first time that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying that we cannot continue like this. It has to be removed. And the president is right. It has to be removed. But how it was removed and the current pains that Nigerians are going through, that people are dying every day, is also very important. So what do you do when you are stuck between two rights? You have to remove fuel subsidy. You have to unify the exchange rates. Well, some economics will argue against that. But at the same time, is it all right for people to suffer, to linger, and not be able to provide and cater for their needs? These are issues that ought to be looked at. And in governance, there has to be an emphatic response in terms of, your emotions, looking through what people are going through and to be able to make some concessions. But of course, the president is an established businessman, and one will call him a capitalist who would not necessarily care about some of this interim impact that Nigerians are going through. Well, let's move on to one key other thing that the president made mention in that speech, as summarized on the screen there. The next point, the president expressed optimism in the security architecture, because when you talk about food insecurity in the country, it still goes a long way to affect the availability of food. Because if insecurity persists, how can the people be able to go to the farms? We look at the north, which is so blessed with a lot of agricultural products, but all of that has been neglected due to governors' focus alone on FAC allocations from the federal government. So in other words, many would want to argue that most Nigerian governors have become lazy because they've not been able to do something with the resources that they have. And in that space of time where they have focused majorly on FAC allocations, insecurity has taken a hold of most of their states, and they've not been able to produce in terms of food production because of lingering insecurity. But the president, on that particular media chat, made boast of the security architecture, even when he was critically asked if he was willing to probe security chiefs. And in an interview, Shehu Sani, said something very striking, that if the president is not willing to probe past security chiefs, then he is not ready to deal with the issue of insecurity. If there is no probe, and it's not just about having probes, when probes become selective, what is the hope of the common man? Because that means the status quo is likely to continue. But I think there is a key point that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu raised in that conversation, which I think is very important, because he talked about the fact that there are structures in the security architecture. In other words, you can't just remove somebody and then just install the person instantly, because there has to be a process. I mean, it takes time for you to become a chief of naval staff or a chief of army staff. So I understand the bureaucracy that involves the structure of the security system that we have in place in our country. But I would want to argue for not just sacking or removing somebody from power, but making them answerable to some of the challenges that has plagued our security sector and security architecture in the nation, because that is very important. But the president, like you heard in his speech during the interview, made it very clear that he was very pleased with what he has been able to achieve so far, making boast that insecurity has doubled down and insurgency, of course, has doubled down. But many people would want to argue against what the president said. So let's move away from that thought expressed by the president. And of course, next, the president reaffirmed his commitment to implementing tax reforms, which is something that has become a thing of controversy, most especially for those not just in the northern region now, but a lot of governors are not really happy about this particular idea of having the present tax reform proposals pushed forward, and that is why it seems to be stalled. But the president told Nigerians that this has come to stay. And I mean, when the president says a thing, Nigerians have come far to experience that if he says he is going to do this, he will do it. Recall on the day of his inauguration when he said subsidy is gone, and the ripple effects of that statement continues to, follow us as a nation even up till today. And a lot of people are still not happy about the fact that the president is not ready to make concessions on that. But of course, he talked about engaging the public, engaging in conversations to find a way through what has been proposed so that it eventually becomes law. And it will be interesting to see what that does for us as a nation in terms of our revenue generation capacity, and how that will also trickle into the 2025 budget, with which the National Assembly has kind of pushed forward till next year, or probably after the Christmas holiday and break. So let's move on to the next key point raised by the president during the course of the media chat. The president defended the size and the capability of his cabinet. And this is pretty interesting because a lot of Nigerians were expecting some pushback from the journalists who I will call seniors in this industry. Because when the president pushed a direct question to them and asked them if they knew any minister who was not performing up to par, but none of them said anything. You look at the power generation sector, you look at how the national grid has collapsed. There was no mention of the particular minister who was in charge of that office. Look at the oil and gas industry and so many challenges, despite the fact that Nigeria can definitely boast that it now refines crude oil, which is a credible gain that this administration most definitely has to take, credit for, and it is due to them. But there are still challenges because many Nigerians want to ask the question, what is the point of having some of these refineries and the cost of the product still has not gone down? There's still lots of answers and there's a lot of accountability that needs to come out in that particular sector. Then you look at other ministries. How about the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Economy? These are also key ministries that also needs accountability. But one would also want to take note of what the president said regarding some of their performance, in the sense that he is not yet done with his one-year administration. So perhaps the president feels that these key persons that he appointed as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria still need more time for some of their work to show forth. But of course, even the rejigging the president did, those were just minor sectors, that contribute to the economy of this great nation. So that is one thing that the president is pretty confident in. How about the size? Do we need that number of ministries? You look at the Ministry of Livestock, which has received a lot of backlash. But of course, many also feel that that is also as a result of politics trying to favor a particular region in the country, the northern region, which is well known for cattle rearing and all of that, despite the fact that that also plays a major role in contributing to the agricultural sector in the country. But because of time, let's quickly look at another point raised by the president during the course of the media chat, where he also, we've taken that one before, expressed optimism. The next one. Yes, thank you very much. The president expressed, that's a wrap. I think my producers tell me that those are some of the key major points raised by the president. But of course, as much as we want to appreciate the president for taking our time to actually talk to Nigerians, this Media Chat is very much appreciated because it helps Nigerians to know the thoughts of the president. But when you talk about a very, very important issue, which I was expecting some of the journalists to raise, is the issue of cutting cost of governance, which is what they seem not to be able to pinpoint to the president clearly. Because Nigerians who have reacted to that Media Chat raised a lot of questions. You talk about the VP's residence and how much it cost. You talk about the president's private car, which cost almost $1 billion, and then also look at the aircraft that was purchased. And in relation to cutting the size of governance, must the president drive in a car that costs over $1 trillion naira? Must the president drive in an aircraft that expensive? Are there alternatives if we say we want to apply the law of scale of preference to be able to save costs? These are some of the questions that Nigerians were hoping that our colleagues in the media were able to put forward to the president. But of course, it went just the way it did without several pushbacks to the president. And as a media practitioner myself, it is quite an honor to be offered the opportunity to interrogate the president, and I'm sure most of them will want to do it in a respectful manner. But I believe that you can pose these questions without sounding rude to the viewers. All right, we'll take a quick breather now. When we come back, we'll get to our guest, Tinubu Media, to make his own comments and analysis of the president's Media Chat, and also 19 months in office. Much ado about what has been accomplished so far by the Tinubu administration. We'll be right back to stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today?
What are the recurring issues?
Order.
The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension.
The instability of the system.
Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now
On Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
Good tidings we bring
To you and your king, good tidings of Christmas and a happy new year.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
On behalf of all of us at LN 24/7 Abuja, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2025. Thank you for watching LN 24/7 and thank you for doing business with us.
Many thanks for staying with us. We have word that our guest joins us all the way from Abia State. Thank you so much, Adebirichi, for being with us today on the show.
Thank you very much. Compliments of the season.
Of course, there's been mixed reactions to the media parley with the president. What did you make of the fact that this is the first of its kind, and why it took this long to have one in the first place?
So the media chat that the president had with the 40th of the realm was a very fantastic move, and I should say that that is something that the president must continue as a matter of fact, because the bedrock of democracy is dialogue. Democracy is founded on the principle of citizen engagement, dialogue, and progressive conversation. So I think this is something that should be encouraged going forward. In fact, I should say that the president should look to make this a quarterly arrangement so that he'll be able to talk to Nigerians on a quarterly basis, or even on a monthly basis, so that Nigerians are able to follow through with the activities of his government and contribute their quota, air their views, and have him feel the pulse of Nigerians through the representative that engage with him. So I think it's a very good one. 2024, like you said, has been a very eventful year. A lot has happened. A lot of issues here and there. The media chat that the president had, with that media chat, he was able to lay his heart to bear and talk about what he's been trying to do to make the country better. But the question is, with what he has done in the last 12 months, are we better off today? Do we have a better government? Are we better governed? Is our democracy stronger? These are pertinent questions that begs, sufficient answers. And I hope that in the coming days and weeks, we'll be able to see, in real terms, what the president plans to do going forward.
Now, let's look at his response. I mean, he pretty scores himself highly. Do you think this is out of touch with reality being felt by Nigerians? I mean, he says, my cabinet is effective and efficient.
Well, I think that was, punching below the belt. The president should not score himself. He is there as a steward, as a servant, and it is not the duty of the servant to rate their performance. It's the duty of those who sent the servant to deliver on a particular mandate to score the servant and analyze whatever it is the servant did and use certain benchmarks to measure that performance. So I think it wasn't a good one. And Maope Ogun, kudos to her, she pointed out to the president that he shouldn't be scoring himself because he is there to pilot the affairs of the country, and it's the responsibility of the citizens who are the major beneficiaries of his policies and programs to assess him and say, yes, we are better off today. We were like this a year ago. Now we are now in this position thanks to the policies and programs of the president. So he cannot score himself at all, let alone scoring himself as somebody who has done excellently well in office. But beyond that, I should say again that this shows that in the real sense of it, based on what we saw in that interview, that the president wants to do well. It shows that he is desperate to do well, but his desperation to do well, his interest in making the country better must be matched with actionable policies and programs that are executed in the interest of the people. So when these programs and policies are executed in the interest of the people, and the people are better off for the sake of these programs and policies, they will come all out to praise. The president has them, but I do expect that going forward, he must understand that it is Nigerians who will tell him how well or how badly he has performed in office.
Were you shocked that he said he did not regret the removal of subsidy and the unification of the exchange rates as it relates to economic hardship?
I wasn't shocked to hear that from the president because he had to own up to that decision. He had to own up to that pronouncement he made, very, very, very significant pronouncement he made on the first day in office. So I think he did what he should do, which is take responsibility for his actions. But what I did not hear in real sense manner is what he plans to do to cushion the effect of subsidy removal in the country. There is no robust plan as to speak to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. He talked about the fact that there was no better time to do it. He talked about the fact that there was no contingency plan he could put together, given the fact that Nigeria is a complex with divergent interests. So these are cushion the effect of removal. He did not tell Nigerians what risk management, procedure he established to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. And that, I think, just as you have with the tax reform, bill that, he's pushing to the National Assembly, there are going to be risks involved. And you've got to be able to have a very, very solid mechanism to deal with these risks, to mitigate the risk, to move to the next level. The process through which this, this development will be achieved should be laid down, and people must understand and key into that process to make the policy effective. But that did not happen, and I also think that he's missing out that significant point in this regime, the tax reform regime. So it's important that he learns from the mistake of the past to make sure that this time, yes, he means well for the country. Obviously, based on some of the things he said in that interview, it's not enough to mean well for the country. You've got to be able to establish a verifiable system, an evidence-based system, a data-driven system that allows you to make decisions in the interest of the people. Because if you fall back to data every time, you're going to learn that most of the people are reacting, negatively to this policy. You're going to learn that the cost of living has increased exponentially because of this policy. And then, of course, learning from all of this, you put mechanisms in place to be able to deal with these issues that will arise from the policy, or these issues that arose thanks to that policy. So I think that it is very, very significant that at this point we'll learn from some of these challenges that we had with the subsidy removal. But I think it's a good policy because, again, looking at how much we spent, on subsidy yearly, of course, it was very clear that was really also sustainable, given the fact that Nigeria has, our foreign reserve has depreciated over the years, and we're not able to handle certain things. So, of course, our debt profile has risen tremendously. So it was really not possible for us to sustain that fraudulent or corrupt subsidy regime. But I think that the process through which the implementation and the removal happened wasn't entirely clear for Nigerians, and we didn't also see the president try to cut cost of governance, because that was also a subject that they discussed during the media chat that was held. So he didn't also tighten his belt while asking Nigeria to tighten their belt. So these were issues that came up that he should have relied on the feedback from the people to deal with, and of course develop a very solid framework.
Now, I want to take us back to his response to the recent stampedes across the country, which many say is as a result of economic hardship. I mean, if I could recall Peter Obi's words, he called it systematic failure, but the president think otherwise.
First of all, I'll send my condolences to Nigerians who lost their loved ones, in the course of all of these. This is not a good time to lose anybody, let alone to this sort of very sad circumstance. So I send my condolences to them, and I pray that God grant them the fortitude to bear their loss. Talking about the issues, I think that the fundamental reason why all of this happened is because of the level of poverty in the land. There's a very high level of poverty in Nigeria. The level of poverty in Nigeria is unprecedented. We've had very tough, situations in the past, but this is unprecedented. The government needs to wake up. Mr. President needs to understand that most Nigerians who have drifted into the poverty line are struggling to end. And it's not about those walking across the streets of this country. We'll see that these programs have not yielded the desired result because most Nigerians are still struggling. So the government needs to sit up and make policies and programs that will get down to the grassroots and alleviate the very high poverty level. They should not be condemned. They should not be condemned. However, they also have their own shortfall in this whole arrangement, because you cannot organize a program for hundreds of people and not establish a system that allows you to provide relief for those in need. you must factor in crowd control. And I think they failed in that project without doing proper risk assessment and drawing up mitigation plan. They should have anticipated that this sort of thing would happen, putting up contingency plans to deal with that. Some of these organizations, institutions, and Nigerians who want to organize this sort of program, they have to find a way to liaise with security agencies or the NSCDC in this instance to provide some level of security and of course assist in controlling the crowd and making sure that everything goes smoothly. So I think this is something that they have to factor in going forward. But really, it is not good that the president is only seeing forward in those who try to. The president must also take responsibility and acknowledge the fact that his policies and programs contributed to a great extent what Nigerians are facing today. And he must also come up with a plan and make Nigerians understand his plan, empathize with those who lost their loved ones, and tell them that he's dealing with the issues that the root causes of the issues that we're facing today, and promise them that he's going to make things better so that we don't have this sort of issues occurring. Because we don't want a situation where by this time 2025 we're having this conversation and also want to also go back to what happened in 2024 and say, this happened and it was not sorted. No, please, everyone who wants that will allow to execute this program that they set out to impact for the benefit of Nigeria, because everything they're doing as it is to help the country and help everyone who is a citizen in this country.
Now, still on the state of the economy, the president reaffirmed his commitment to say the course on tax reform is sure to proceed. And of course, this has not been well received with calls for review. How do you respond to this?
I think there are two sides here. The two sides here, the president laid to bear, during that media chat. He talked about, then again, he also said that he to forward. So yeah, it is good to know that he's not hell-bent on implementing or pushing through his ideas. I'm glad to from the people, especially those in the National Assembly, are working with stakeholders to adjust certain areas in the tax reform bill and make sure that whatever comes out at the end of the day suits the interest of majority of Nigerians. So it's a good one. I also took note of some of the comments he made around the bill. He said the tax reform bill is pro-poor, that he designed that to favor the poor people and those in the middle class. I think, of course, looking at some of the things, some of the provisions in the bill, the fact that those within a certain threshold of income will not pay taxes. Those in the low income level will not pay taxes. Reduction in the VAT and all of that. All of these things are good, but I think again, just like we talked about the subsidy removal policy, it is always good to start from the bottom and then ascend to the top. If you want to implement this sort of policy or put this sort of bill, the very fundamental step to take in this instance is to engage in stakeholder conversation, is to engage in dialogue and understand what everybody wants in this instance. What everybody wants as far as that issue is concerned. So I think he failed to do that. I think the president failed to reach out at the initial phase. At that formation that completed their idea. So a lot of them just saw this in the news and of course they were like, what exactly is going on? So I think that the president needs to change his approach in this regard. There's need for robust stakeholder management and robust stakeholder engagement at the formative stage of these policies and programs of government, so that the stakeholders can contribute their quota, engage the young people in these conversations, engage the farmers in these conversations, engage different institutions, civil society, and of course, the governors, the legislators. Let us have a holistic view on all of these issues. By the time we have a holistic view, people contribute at the level, you would have been guaranteed that whatever you're going to design at the end of the day will be something that reflects the interests of the people and will serve the interest of the Nigeria. So I think that this is something that they fail to do consistently. But going forward, as we move into 2025, Mr. President must make sure that all his programs and policies will be inclusive, so that people can buy into his vision. He is work with him to achieve his goal, because he cannot do it alone. And of course, we are in a democracy. Mr. President may have good intentions, but his intentions are good to him. They will be good to Nigerians when Nigerians key into them and work with him to make them, manifest. So I think he has to understand that, and he has to incorporate that into and have, input in the tax reform bill. Absolutely yes. But this is a democracy, and in a democracy, the citizens must be involved, and he must ensure that whether or not people cooperate at the beginning or at this initial phase, he must ensure that their concerns are considered, their inputs are, included, and most importantly, that their interests are protected in the whole conversation. So that at the end of the day, they will work with him to make sure that his good programs for the country becomes a reality.
Okay, Deberechi, let's move on to something else which has to do with the president's submissions on his security architecture. I mean, he said he's not willing to let go of any of his chiefs, and they've performed excellently well. What are your thoughts? Well,
some very, very critical points on security. One of the things he said is that he's not going to sack his security chiefs, and he's not going to probe them because he trusts them to deliver. What is very interesting in this security conversation is the fact that the president, talked about his trust on the security chiefs, and the fact that he's not going to probe them, that he's not going to probe the activities, neither is he going to probe the activities of those who were before him. He's going to focus on the issues at hand and try to deal with them accordingly. But again, what we should also look at in this whole security conversation is the budgetary allocation for security in the 2025 fiscal year. Security has the highest allocation in the budget. Of course, one should assume or presume that with this development, that security is a priority for this government in 2025. One should also assume that security should be improved in 2025. But what we don't know is, in detail, what we don't know in detail is what this money is going to be allocated to and how this is going to work. Because we've had billions of naira allocated to the security, of this country over the years to match the amount of money that has been allocated to security year in, year out. So I think that the president needs to do a holistic assessment of the performance of the security chiefs at the end of the year. We must also be able to measure how we have performed in that sector. In the first half of 2023, for instance, more than 1,000 Nigerians lost their lives, due to insecurity, right? So what happened in the second quarter of 2023, I do not have the data, but we must be able to show that the government needs to put up a very robust security plan and make sure that the trillions or the billions of naira that are going to allocate to the security system is effectively managed. And also, the president did also talk about the performance of the 2024 budget. Of course, I'm sure, yes, they're probably wrapping up, with that and putting all of those assessments in place. But there's a very, very security system in our country. The money we spend to we spend to secure our country are effectively monitored. We must make sure that these billions of naira that are allocated to these of security are effectively utilized, because we are allocating this huge amount of money for security, and of course, every Nigerian should go home and sleep with their 2 eyes.
All right, we lost Deberici there. I hope we can connect back with him. But if we have him, okay, Deberici, you're back with us. Please go ahead. You were sharing your thoughts earlier on the security architecture comments from the president.
Right. So that to me shows some level of confidence with them. So it's a good one. Hopefully, he will look back and be proud of this. He's proud of his belief in what they have to offer and their capacity, and of course their commitment to his vision as far as security in the fiscal year, that is 2025 fiscal year. I think that is actually instructive. The budgetary allocation for security is actually the highest in the budgetary allocation. In the budgetary provision for the next fiscal year, the 2025 fiscal year, and that may mean, I use the word may because it is not actually a proof of what is going to be done. Is a budgetary allocation of proposal and there. But I think based on that, one can assume that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will prioritize security in 2025. But prioritize security in terms of spending may not also mean much, because we've had several governments spend billions and billions of naira on security over the years, and the issues, still persistent. And we've had several governments engage different, people try to purchase different equipment, sophisticated equipment from different parts of the world, and that has yielded, some result, I should say, but not as much as we expect for a country, that is as vast as Nigeria, for a country with so much resources and so much, intellectual capital as far as, security experts are concerned. So I think we should be doing more. I think that this government should also get in security. Here from the president was his analysis of the security situation in the country. He did not give Nigerians a clear picture of what he meant on the ground when he came in as the president of this country. He did not give us a picture of what he has managed to do to improve the security system or improve security generally in our country. The living condition of most, police officers in this country is terrible. If you've been to an average police barrack in this country, you will find that, the structural establishment in most of these places leaves much to be desired. If you go to the DPO's office, I think Mr. Osita Chitoka, former, especially given the fact that, all right, so I'll just wrap up to say that the president must make sure that beyond the budgetary allocation for security, which is, the president must make sure that beyond the budgetary allocation for security, which is encouraging, which shows that the government prioritizes security, and the government, look to do more as far as security is concerned in the country in 2025. Mr. President must make sure that he evaluates expenditures in security to ensure return for their money. And I said that what I did not hear from Mr. President in that media chat is what he has done in the security system that has come out of all of those. I did not hear that. He did mention the fact that he has trust in the security chiefs and he wants to work with them. He also said, of course, which is factual, that security has the highest budgetary allocation for the 2025 fiscal year. All of these are factual statements, but Nigerians want to see results. we want to be able to measure the outcomes from all of these budgetary allocations we make year in, year out. We want to be able to see a situation where, every year we see significant reduction in the number of deaths that occur as a result of insecurity. We want to see our security personnel well taken care of. We want to see their welfare improve, and we want to see structural interventions within the security architecture so that, our security system will be beefed up against all of these intrusions and attacks from, scrupulous elements in the society. So this is what we want. And we cannot achieve that if we keep wishing things away. We cannot achieve that if we don't measure the performance of programs and policies of government, in the security sector. So I think that 2025 presents a very, very good opportunity for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that the security system in Nigeria is improved, to ensure that the welfare package of our security personnel, is improved, to ensure that we get better results, we get better outcomes in our security system. And he must make sure that come December 2025, as it is, he'll be able to tell Nigerians what he was able to do, how he moved our system from what it is today to what it will be by then. Nigerians must be able to measure his performance and then rate him according to what he's able to do, and not whatever is. So I'm very positive, and I hope that he's able to manifest all of these actionable plans that will favor Nigerians. And of course, Nigerians will praise him when they see the result at the end of the day.
Our time is almost up. I want to thank you so much for your time. Deberechi, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Mana. And I hope that you enjoyed this season. I send out my warm regards to Nigerians across the country. Please enjoy this season, but enjoy responsibly. Thank you and God bless you.
Well, overall, the year 2024 was a challenging yet transformative period for Nigerian politics, characterized by significant elections, economic struggles, security threats, constitutional debates, and youth empowerments. These events underscored the need for continued dialogue, cooperation, and reform to address the country's pressing challenges and help us build a more inclusive and prosperous future for all Nigerians. And the words of President Tinubu's Christmas message, he talked about the fact that Nigeria is on the path, to righteous restoration. I think that was one of the key words he used there. And in this season, we are hopeful that as the president has started, I think, which is a new leaf on his path to be communicating with Nigerians, especially mostly on the key issues, it should not just be something that is done at the end of the year, but possibly maybe once every quarter, so that Nigerians can stay fully engaged on his thoughts, whether they like it or not. It is needful that we have these conversations. Well, it's still Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of our viewers, and many thanks for keeping it locked right here on this edition of Politics Now. Once again, my name is Morno Balabobo, thanking you for watching today. See you next time.